this video I'll be dealing with solo training. There is utility in solo training. I received a comment recently on one of my training videos where somebody who was a martial artist was a hater. And it's very, very rare. It's something you know comment. It's very rare to get a hater type comment from somebody who's actually doing what you're doing. Meaning, most hater comments that I get if I'm lifting weights, for example, in a YouTube short or in a live stream, and people come in critiquing it and saying it sucks. It's people that don't have videos of their own doing this thing they're criticizing. You understand? Most of the time, 99% of the time, people that leave hater comments, people that hate and troll, they don't have videos of their own. They have blank channels. So most of the time, if somebody comes to my live stream and I'm lifting weights, doing bicep curls, and haters trolls come in and go, you're doing it wrong, or your form is horrible, or something like this, or your arms look skinny, bro, or whatever. If I go to like go-to channels, they don't have any content at all. So they don't have videos of themselves showing their body or lifting weights. If people come and leave hater comments on my training videos, most of the time they don't have videos of themselves training, or like even showing the face of their body or something like this. So I got the unicorn hater comment from somebody that claims and seems to possibly actually be a martial artist, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy. Okay. And he left a comment, disparaging, but maybe not the right word. He left a comment saying that his argument was down to it's pointless to train martial arts, that you have to do sparring to get better at combat training. So here's his comment, the last one. I don't agree. I don't think you can train combat sports solo, which shows his lack of understanding. He wrote, his first comment was this, on one of my training videos, jab hook combo. This is the video, jab hook combo. And the person wrote, why don't you actually get training at an MMA gym if you're interested in the sport? Which looks very snarky and passive aggressive. Okay. Jab hook combo. Why don't you actually get trained at an MMA gym if you're interested in the sport? And I'm about to snarky word comment. Why would I? It would be unwise, as I can't even leave my house without being harassed and torn otherwise as well. But one of the things, why don't I go to public library or the supermarket or to feed the ducks? Because I'm not told in the videos I get harassed and told them from my WhatsApp by secret prosecution program, which means walk circumspectly, not as fools, redeem the time for this evil, which means it'd be unwise for me to spend time in certain environments. And from experience being a video, if I go to a gym, they have agents in there start talking to me. They might get told to like wait until Mike looks away and spray a chemical on the back of his shirt or something like this. Okay. If he goes to the bathroom, forgets his water bottle on the mat, somebody in there is an agent of the deep state, they get told to put some poison in there. So anyway, so that person left a comment downplay what I'm doing, which is like such a hated thing to do. Okay. Why don't you actually get training at an MMA gym if you're in the sport? Which is trying to downplay what I'm doing, as if it's not that good. Okay. And his last comment was, I don't agree, I don't think you can train combat sports solo. Okay. Which means that it shows that he's wrong, which shows a lack of understanding in martial arts. I'm self-taught. I'm a self-taught stick fighter. I can, all the things I've learned, I'm self-taught and self-trained, like Musashi. I've learned stick fighting, knife fighting, boxing, Muay Thai, kickboxing, wrestling is, first time I went to a gym to try out as a media guy. First time bowling with people. So apparently it's possible to get to the point where you can pull things off in real life or in training. They've been training solo. So anyway, he shows lack of understanding and being a hater. Like reveals himself as a toxic person. He said, well, why don't you actually train as if it doesn't count because of the solo training? Okay. As if it doesn't count. So here's my point. It is possible to get better at combat, hand-to-hand combat, sword combat, knife combat, gunfighting, stick fighting, knife fighting, fist fighting with solo training. And I'm not the only one saying that. You know, the most famous, successful sword fighter in history who wrote a book of strategy, Miyamoto Musashi, would agree with me. And he was self-trained, self-taught as I am, at least to a big part. So Musashi won 60 plus sword fight duels to the death, and he was a proponent of solo training. Okay. So here's another thing. Not trying to argue with idiots is kind of pointless because they wouldn't believe in comments like that if they were rational and had critical thinking skills and understanding of things. So most cops win the first gunfight, their first gunfight, and they have been sparring. See, they've been shooting paper targets. Most cops win their first gunfight, meaning cop body cam footage in America, where it's like some hoodlum pulls a gun and starts shooting at cops. And the cop has never been in a gunfight before, but he's been having training going to a shooting range and then like pulling his weapon and shooting and being all the things like this. Most cops win the first gunfight, and they've been doing solo training. Not a shooting competition, shooting paper targets is not a gunfight, but every gunfight is a shooting competition. See? Hitting a man-sized target effectively. So people like these, small minds can comprehend great spirits. Okay, to be great that we want to be understood, misunderstood, mocked, ridiculed. So it is definitely possible to get better with solo training. Definitely better to get better with solo training. My first fist fight, street fight, was before I was 10 years old, and I won it. And I've been doing solo training before that. My mom and dad bought me a kid's punching bag as a child, like very cute, like a kid-sized punching bag. They had it on me. It was the color of the American flag, so it had like a theme. It was like American flag on the bag, American flag on the gloves. And I've been hitting it sometimes. And first time I got in a fist fight, before I was 10 years old, I won the fist fight. And I fought my childhood buddy. And he was like bullying me, and I got mad. And I walked up and punched him in the face. And I've been doing solo training all since then. I had a good sparring with people, with no serious sparring to my memory. Now play fighting that we do as kids might be kind of sparring. So, and why is it a win? Because I walked up, punched him in the face, and it got affected him to the point where he like tapped out and was like, he just didn't want to fight anymore, so I was walking on. And at this point I didn't pursue him. So, anyways, the point. It is possible to get better at combat sports with solo training alone. And we're going to look at Musashi here. So this is, I read the book, I had the book as a bookmark. Musashi's book here. A Book of Five Wings by Miyamoto Musashi. I have it as a bookmark. I haven't been reading, I've been focusing on reading the Bible, but I've looked at it before. So here I copy-pasted in AI from ChatGPT. See if I can get like a brief synopsis. Miyamoto Musashi, the legendary swordsman and author of the Book of Five Wings, Goro no Shon, placed enormous value on solitary training. And who is Musashi? Some kind of Buddhist monk who's just like theorizing, having practice or something like this. No, he was a sword fighter who won more than 60, at least 60 sword fights to the death in Japan. Okay, meaning that's not even, that's like it go well. So it's not sport fighting. That's like the purest combat. It's lethal combat to the death. Okay, so that's pressure tested. So it's not like sport fighting, like he was champion in sword fighting competitions and the training with Bokken or something like this, which the Buddhist sword is for sparring. No, he won 60 duels to the death, sword fights to the death, at least 60. Okay. And he was a proponent of solo training and he wrote a book of strategy. Calling it a sword fighting man, I'll be kind of underselling it and oversimplifying it because it has application to all kinds of stuff. A boxer could benefit from reading it if they have the ability to. Okay, it's like the Bible has all the answers, but people read it and don't get a lot out of it because they're not interested. The laws are not interested. So it's not just what you're reading, it's who the reader is. Now here's the point. Miyamoto Musashi, the legendary Japanese swordsman and author of the Book of Five Rings, Gory No Show, placed enormous value on solitary training. His philosophy was that true mastery comes from self-discipline, direct experience, and forging one's spirit through independent practice, rather than relying too much on teachers or companions. And I've been talking about this. I've learned boxing punches and throwing punches and kicks and knees and stuff. And I have been like, wow, like the average man, average shoulder, it's like if I want to be able to get my striking to a high level, I need to have a gym with a pro boxing coach and sparring partners and professional equipment and punching bags and hand wraps and a coach that is like holding me by the hand and guiding me and helping me to get better. Okay, it's me, and this is because I'm a Christian. It's possible to do this. Okay, so with me, I've been able to learn all kinds of skills and be self-reliant. Okay, I've learned how to. It's like people go, Mike, you need to. I've cured my wife, We Wonderful, of her. She reports being cured of her allergies 99%. Before that, she went to the mainstream hospital, and they couldn't help her. So people go, Mike, you have to go to an MD degree, you have to go to school and study in university to be able to practice medicine. No, I've been self-teaching myself certain things. So I've been able to be my own chiropractor, psychologist, diet, nutritionist, martial arts coach, like in the physical, empowered by God. Okay, so let's continue reading about Musashi here. His philosophy was that true mastery comes from self-discipline, direct experience, and forging one's spirit through independent practice, rather than relying too much on teachers or companions. Here are some key points from Musashi's writings and life regarding solo training. Practice alone to forge spirit. Musashi wrote, you should not have any special fondness for a particular weapon. Too much is the same as not enough. Without imitating anyone else, you should have a natural ability. It is necessary to begin learning with the spirit of finding your own way. Book of Five Rings, Run Book. He believed training alone stripped away crutches. It forced a warrior, not sports fighter, to rely on personal discovery, strengthening intuition and adaptability. Repetition and constant refinement. Musashi emphasized endless repetitive practice of fundamentals, cuts, footwork, timing, done alone until they became natural. He wrote, from one thing know 10,000 things, meaning by mastering a single technique deeply in solitude, you can understand the principles behind all techniques. Living as training. Musashi didn't separate training from daily life. He often wandered as a ronin, and a ronin is a masterless samurai. So most samurais, typically a samurai was like a social class, okay, similar to police officers or soldiers today. So you couldn't just dress up in kimono where you could walk around with swords in Japan and call yourself a samurai. They had certain points in time was illegal for the average citizen to carry swords in public, and only samurai could carry swords. And samurai would be like soldiers of the time, and also do like VIP protection, kind of like the Secret Service, where they would be like bodyguard for big shots and things. But a ronin means kind of like a masterless samurai, meaning a free agent that's a samurai, but he's not employed or working for someone else. Musashi didn't separate training from daily life. He often wandered as a ronin, traveling alone, and considered even eating, walking, or observing nature as part of sharpening awareness. Solitude was both physical and mental training. Mind over technique. Solo training wasn't just physical. Musashi stressed that the mind had to be honed even more than the body. The perception is strong and sight weak. In strategy, it is important to see distant things as if they were close and take a distance view of those things. Meditation, observation, self-discipline were as vital as cutting drills. Solo cutting drills. Never becoming complacent. Even as an undefeated duelist, Musashi continued to train in solitude throughout his life. carving wooden swords, painting, and practicing calligraphy, believing that mastering one art deepens understanding of all others. Takeaway from modern research, for modern readers. Versace's approach to solo training teaches that independence, endless refinement on basics, and cultivating awareness in daily life are the keys to mastery. Training alone isn't a weakness, but a way to forge unshakable strength and adaptability. So, who do you think I'm gonna take more seriously? A guy that won 60 sword fights to the death and what he thinks about training works and what doesn't. Or a guy who's rolling around in the gym in a sports competition, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, who's practicing one martial art, if you even do. So, now, ultimately it boils down to being a Christian that has enabled me to do all kinds of stuff. So I'm an old doctor, psychologist. I kill myself of panic attacks. Well, hey, Mike, you need the pros, okay? You can't be as good as the pros. The psychologists with MD degrees. I killed myself of panic attacks. Serious mental health problem I had for many years. Killed myself. What's another thing? Killed myself of asthma attacks. Used to have a vent inhaler and get severe asthma attacks. Stopped refilling that prescription because I killed myself. See? From training at home and learning alternative health fitness truths and applying the knowledge. And I'm not going to give you any claiming that other people can cure the asthma attacks and give you like, here's the thing to do. I'm just speaking from experience here. So anyway, as a point, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That's how I've been able to cure myself from panic attacks, whereas clinical psychologist Jordan Peterson has severe anxiety depression and became addicted to benzodiazepines. So it's not only that I've been able to be up to par with the pros, I've been excelling over pros in multiple fields here. Not just mastering one area, but I've been able to excel in different areas where I've been able to do a better job of curing people, like improving people's health with allergies than the MD degree doctor they went to. I've been able to do a better job improve my mental health than psychologist Jordan Peterson, who had severe anxiety, depression, and he couldn't do what I do to fix himself at home, despite being a clinical psychologist, supposedly the competence lead to according to some people. No, he became addicted to benzodiazepines and had to go to Russia on some rehab and direct his life. I've been suffering with severe anxiety for many years. I have autism, ADHD. And I have had and have overcome a lot of problems. So it's like Jordan Peterson, you know, psychologist, high service society, high financial level, connections in the psychology industry, and well educated. And he couldn't fix himself with severe anxiety issues. Okay, and I'm an autistic Christian loner, and I had severe anxiety for many years and panic attacks, and I killed myself with panic attacks. Meaning, this be many years I didn't have one panic attack. From before that, for many years I would have at least once a month, super high anxiety and stress on a daily basis, and then now and then it'd be like go over the top and become a panic attack. Okay, then killed myself with asthma attacks. And the people like you that are inferior, you have to go, small minds can comprehend great spirits. So you'd be like, well, you're the same type of person. They might go, well, somebody has allergies. They have to go to the professionals and they need 10 people to help them. They need a psychologist to help them before drugs and need this and need that. Where I'm a living proof that as a Christian man, you can do all kinds of stuff. So it boils down to me being a Christian. So my point of view, I hold to the view boldly that it's possible to get better at combat from solo training alone. Be it knife fighting, sword fighting, gun fighting, whatever, fist fighting. I believe it's better that it's possible to improve your fighting ability in one of these fields, okay? Any types of fighting by solo training alone. That doesn't mean that it can't be helpful to do sparring. Sparring can be helpful, but it's not required. It is possible for a person, I would say even for a lost person, it is possible for a person to raise their fighting ability and raise the chances they would win the first gunfight, sword fight, fist fight by solo training alone, okay? And especially if you're a Christian that has God on the side. blessed with all my strength, teach my fingers to fight, my hands to war. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So I hold to Musashi's rule that it's possible to improve your fighting ability by independent solo training and not relying on outside sources. And one of the quotes in his book is, "There's nothing outside of yourself that you need to improve." See, that I remember that from reading the book. There's nothing outside of yourself required for you to improve. And lost people don't have God inside themselves. So if it's possible for a lost person to get better at fighting with swords or whatever, from just themselves, all they have themselves. Imagine a Christian that has the Spirit of God inside them. So, so my view on solo training, I believe that it's possible to raise your combat ability and raise your chances of winning your first gunfight, fist fight, sword fight, or whatever type of fight is, stick fight. With solo training alone. The one thing doesn't exclude the other. Doesn't mean that like you go to the other way, flip the other way, say sparring is bad, okay, and don't do it. It doesn't do anything. It has its place. So I can give you another like experience thing. I've sparred with my mother, okay, middle-aged woman, knife fighter. Okay, and I have a few videos of that, us training and sparring knife fighting together. Very light, obviously. And before I started doing that, I was doing solo training, okay, only solo training, practicing techniques and level changes and grips and stuff like this. And then when I tested in sparring, it's like, oh, I can tell that the solo training I've been doing helped me in sparring, kind of simulated combat. Which since I've been training solo in sparring, I was able to like pull it off, and I could tell it's like, oh yeah, the solo training made me better at sparring, and sparring is fake fighting, okay, pretty much like what it seems like. So, I'm self-trained, self-taught, and it might seem contradictory when I say that. It's like, Mike, sometimes you go, it's like it's God that has taught you. Sometimes you say self-trained, self-taught, but in the physical, natural. If somebody will have a camera, like Big Brother house, looking all the time, I'm the only human in the room, see. I'm the only human being that's training, and there's not another guy in the room helping me with my training or something. I'm able to learn boxing, kicks, stick fighting, sword fighting, knife, and all this stuff. So I'm self-trained, self-taught, and God has been helping me, okay. So part of how God has been helping me to raise my confidence in different areas, my abilities, how I see God operating, having operated my life. And God is not working your life if you're a lost person in the same way. All He's doing basically is working to get you saved, okay? That's the first order of the day. God is like working to get you saved, okay? It's like, hey, come get saved. And then it's a different thing. So, it's not like supernatural. You don't want to be ridiculous and misunderstand things. So when I say, for example, the God is blessed with health, fitness, wisdom, understanding, which has helped me to cure myself and other people health problems, cure so many people others. So some things I've cured, other things I have greatly improved. It's not like, when I learned how to cure allergies or like improve allergies and apply this to when someone was being all but cured of allergies after they take my advice. It wasn't that God sent an angel into my house with a scroll and be like, here's the secret, or something like this, or gave me supernatural powers like touch somebody and heal, something like this. No, like the nuts and bolts of God's hand in my life is I prayed to God about my asthma attacks, which is a bad problem, and then within 6 months I find something that shows up where it's like I'm browsing YouTube. It can be, and since the Holy Spirit is living in me, it can be, to give an example, let's say 8 years ago, I prayed to God, kind of at the end of my walk, like this is really hard, the allergies and the asthma attacks, okay? It's like I smell perfume, it's like, I get a super serious asthma attacks. I don't have that sensitivity anymore. Where it's like I can get a little bit breathing and itchiness, but I don't have like the full-on asthma attacks anymore. It's like super hard to breathe, okay? So me praying to God about healing from asthma attacks, it's not like God snapped his fingers and healed my asthma attacks. And it's not that God sent an angel to my house with like a straw, here's the protocol. Okay? No, but it could be like this. I pray to God for help with for healing of my asthma attacks, that it helped me get better. And then within the week, it's like I have an impulse. I feel just on my heart, like, well, you know what, Google vitamins for allergies. See, I pray to God for healing my allergies. And how it works, or where, like this, the chain that leads to me having the confidence for my allergies and being able to report I have it for my allergies. To be God, I pray you help me with my allergies, help me improve them. Later on, I feel like on my heart, or like a thought, like, you know what, why not Google like vitamins for allergies or something like this, okay? Or cure for allergies or something like this. And then I scroll through and look at like Google, and something stands out. You're like, oh, here's a guy who says vitamins can help with that. And it's like, look at it, and then watch the video, read the article. Do you understand? So part of how God has been helping to improve in different areas. It's like it's God enabled me in my inner man to like have an intuition and a sense of things, and having understandings. But it also part of the learning process is God making sure that like Mike is paying for uh, health and strength. It's like, yeah, I make sure that he comes across a Tom Media video, or an article from Andy Saul's Doctor's website, or a video. He's got ADHD and he's paying for help with that. And it's like, make sure he comes across a video by Abraham Hoff and talk about niacinamide. Okay. Do you understand? So it's not all like magical. I can just wake up one day and know how to improve my stuff. Uh, it's, part of it is the internal work where the Holy Spirit can put this on your heart, and you can have more inspiration or feel drawn or compelled to be like, you know, I feel like I should research it more. That could be the Holy Spirit in a Christian going, it's like, hey, you should research a little bit more. And you might feel like, research a little bit more. And then you can find the truth. So yeah, it boils down to this. Solo training has utility. So this guy exposed himself as a person who doesn't really understand combat, because he says that he doesn't believe that you can train combat training solo, which means you're a person who doesn't understand things. Okay. And being that type of person, you'd be unlikely to be able to get the point where you're excelling in any field, training yourself. Okay. So the truth is, it is possible to raise your combat ability by solo training alone, be it fist fighting, sword fighting, stick fighting, gun fighting. That doesn't mean that it's useless to sport. Sparring can be helpful, but you don't rely on it. You should be able to get to a point where you can fight with the martial arts form you're training without sparring, which is kind of like a bold statement. You should be able to, because solo training done right, it has the capability, it can bring you to a point where you're able to do something. So to give it this as an example, if I was an average Joe, and there was another guy who was an average Joe, and I have a gun, okay, let's say it's Texas, okay, one average Joe goes, gets a gun, puts it in the door, doesn't train with it ever, just has it for self-defense. You know, in Texas, I think they have covert open carry. So let's say two guys in Texas, both of them buy a gun. One of them just buys it and like has it on his purse and walks around with it. I got a gun, okay, I got it on my body if I need it. The other guy buys a gun and he goes to shooting range and he practices quick draw, like drawing the weapon, shooting this target, shooting that target, maybe see, and practice only that, pulling the gun, shooting this target, okay, and then dividing it, like solo training, standing still, static in front of one target, shooting that one target, okay, and then he starts mixing it up. Maybe goes to another like tactical shooting course or something like this, where they have that between ground, and he practices solo once again, targets, but he's practicing being behind cover, peeking around cover, shooting the target, moving, okay, like moving forward, engaging this other target, and then, like reload the other side, and then train more flowing, still solo, but it's like targets moving or targets popping up and moving himself, switching targets, practicing like shooting, getting behind cover, popping out of cover, shooting out of target, things like this. I would bet that that person versus a guy who's bought a gun, if these two people would get into a gunfight, I would bet on the guy who's been doing the solo training in gunfighting, winning the gunfight. Whereas the guy that has a gun, pulls it, is I'm ready and starts shooting. I would bet on the guy who's been practicing solo movement drills, reloads, quick draw, shooting targets, different ranges, things like this. My money would be on the guy who's been doing solo training only versus take the target or win the gunfight versus the guy who's been not training at all. Okay. And if you did training well enough, it's like you could. So now here's the thing too. So sparring has its use, but it's not required. Okay. Uh, there is knife fighting sparring. No, there is gunfighting sparring where you can use Rap 4 like paintball guns. Okay. And so that'd be sparring, see? That'd be like sparring. Or even airsoft. Okay. Where you can have an airsoft, these people are milsim airsofters. And they have kind of like an M4 airsoft and it has the same dimensions and buttons and ergonomics and everything as the real world equivalent. And they do airsoft milsims. And that would be like sparring. Where it's like it's not just target shooting, but it's actually being hit with something and hitting with something. So. Yeah, so solo training alone definitely can improve somebody's fighting ability.